Welcome to It's All Mental, a podcast from Everyturn Mental Health. Mental isn't a bad word. There's no health without mental health. We're here to talk about every high and low. No limits, just good conversations.
Hello and welcome to our podcast this morning. We're talking about self-care and really we're looking at things that's beyond the bubble bath is our title, and we'll be focused on things like practical advice and tips for making time for yourself and how important it is. So today we have a guest with us. We've got Scott Mees. Scott, would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do for Everyturn Mental Health?
Yeah, of course. Thank you. Nice to meet you. My name's Scott, and I'm the newest member of Northumberland Recovery College for Everyturn. I run the dad's perinatal mental health groups. So I'm a single father myself. I've got sole custody of my boy. I have done for the last 4 years now. He's 7. Mental health, I've had my own struggles in the past. I'm a person of recovery from addiction. So I've been in recovery for just over 4 years now. And I've only been in this role for 3 weeks. So what I've been doing in this job is the dad's groups on a Tuesday and Thursday, which we're starting to build up and getting a good range of dads coming now. We've got some guys who've got children with extra needs, and we've got some guys who are brand new fathers and are sort of that adaptation of just becoming a dad, which is great. And it's good because to be able to use some of the experiences that I went through as a father myself and then see these lads coming week in, week again and helping them, and it's very rewarding. And being a single dad, my whole life pretty much revolves around dad. That's my identity, is kind of been lost in just dad, you know.
Mm-hmm. So you couldn't really get a more perfect role for you for a job
Yeah.
to do this for a living as well. So do you want to tell us a little bit more about the groups, just for anybody who's listening locally? Just is it so Tuesdays, you said, is that?
Yeah, of course. So we've got Tuesday night at Bedlington at the family hubs, and Thursday nights in Asherton at the family hubs as well. And they're both from 5:30 till 7:00. They're for any dad that's struggling with anything from money issues to mental health issues to just the actual stresses of becoming a dad, you know, and trying to manage, like, this is why I think it's good that we're talking about self-care today, trying to manage some time for yourself, time for your partner if you're still in a relationship, and time to be a dad. I think there's a lot of pressures on parents, and we've all got these built-up ideas of what makes a good dad or what makes a good parent, and we put a lot of stress on myself. So we basically just we put the kettle on, we sit around, have a good chat, and get whatever we've got on our chest off our chest. It's quite nice, calm sort of environment, you know. Just it is all men.
Yeah.
But just to try and sort of break that stigma of men don't talk, and giving each other a safe space to talk where there's no judgment. It's, you know, it's confidential, and you can sort of shoot the breeze and talk about your week and not fear any judgment from anyone. And, you know, if you are struggling, you can say you're struggling, and it's been a great experience. I wish, like I said this when I interviewed for the job, I wish there had been something like this when I was new to becoming a dad myself, because I really struggled. We had a breakdown of a relationship and everything that was going on around about the same time, and becoming a dad, it just it blew my mind quite a lot, you know. I wasn't
that
expecting
weight of
anything that was
responsibility and
just not knowing, like, there's no sort of guidebook to becoming a parent or what it takes, and my life had been very up and down and all over the place. So then finding out I was going to be responsible for this tiny little baby boy was a massive shock. You know, it was a big change from the life I had lived.
Yeah, I think I'll probably just make reference to the fact that the title of this podcast is about beyond the bubble bath, and I think that is something that we talked about is is that self-care and bubble baths and all that kind of thing specifically kind of relates to females, and
Yeah,
you're here and your role and your, I think, life purpose, by the sound of talking to you, is about raising that awareness for males and for fathers, and so
yeah,
I think that's just I'm really pleased to be able to give that forum to you. Um,
definitely.
and yeah, I mean, the group sounds great. It sounds like something, just a little bit of a space to sort of think about what you're doing, and have time for you. So if I can just lead into, what does self-care, or the term self-care, what does that mean to you as an individual, and maybe across to what advice are
Mhm.
you giving out as well to other dads?
I think one of the biggest things for me about self-care is a lot of times when we do talk about self-care, people confuse it for being selfish,
Mm.
or there's a lot of guilt attached to it. And I've felt this as a parent, and on my own. Do you think like you feel selfish or you feel guilty for taking that self-care? But for me, it's the least selfish thing that I can possibly do. If I'm not
Mhm.
keeping myself in good, fit mental and physical condition, I can't be the dad that my son deserves.
Mhm.
I can't help anybody else in the profession that I want to be in, which is in mental health. And
Mhm.
I can't give anyone what I haven't got if I'm not giving it to myself, because
Mhm.
ultimately, when you're burnt out, you cannot give anything of yourself, can you?
Mhm.
So I
Mhm.
think the biggest thing is self-care. It's definitely not selfish. It's important. Everybody needs, whether you can manage half an hour a day. Like my life's pretty full on. From the minute I get up, I work full time. I've got my 7-year-old, we've got the school run, you've got everything like that. You've got football training, you've got all of them things that life just throws at you. But I know that I have to fit at least a half an hour in or an hour in for myself to do something that's good for me, whether
Mhm.
that be running, or I really enjoy guided meditations. Like I love a guided meditation,
Mhm.
but just to take that time and get myself centered and just have a relax, put the kettle on
Yeah.
and take that half an hour. Otherwise, literally, I start to feel that I can't give anyone anything in it. And if I can't do
Mhm.
that, I can't perform. Like I said, I can't perform as a dad. I can't
Mhm.
perform in my job role.
Mhm.
And life becomes quite unmanageable for me very quickly when I'm not looking after myself. So I
Mhm.
think that's the main thing for me, is to not feel guilty or selfish about it and realize just how important it is that I do make time for myself.
Yeah. That's really good, really interesting. When your dads are sort of together in your group, is there common themes and practical tips that you guys talk about? Does it come down quite often to physical self-care and the guided meditation, or is there more themes across?
No, I think we try and keep it as a free flowing chat. I think one of the
Mhm.
big themes that we've got with the new dads, and this is something I've noticed myself and felt myself and other guys we see coming in. So a pregnancy obviously starts for the woman. She's got the baby inside of her belly,
Yeah.
and you can feel the baby, and you've got the kicks, and it's all real very quickly for a woman who's experiencing pregnancy and going through that.
Mhm.
For a man, I don't think it quite gets real until the baby's born, and then all of a sudden it's panic stations of, God, this thing's tiny.
Mhm.
And now I've got to do this. I've never changed a nappy before. They've got to support the head when you're holding it, and they're just all these pressures of that hit you. And I think women are a lot more prepared for childbirth because they're going through it. It's very real
The
from
physical thing.
the
Mhm.
moment. And
Mhm.
whereas, although it sounds silly, I think for men it is literally up until the day of the birth, and then all of a sudden it's just like, what am I gonna do?
Responsibility.
And
Yeah.
it's just mass panic. So
Yeah.
one of the big themes that we're getting with the new dads is it's literally just that responsibility and the amount of panic and stress and pressure we all put on myself of, now
Mhm.
I've got this thing in my life, I need to look after it. I want to be a good dad, and you want to be able to provide, and you put pressure on yourself to work, and then
Mhm.
you've obviously got, everything that comes with pregnancy as well for your partner. If you're still in a relationship, you know, you've got the perinatal, postnatal,
Yeah.
and if they've had a cesarean or C-section, I think they've changed the name from cesarean when I was little, haven't they? So people say
The short
C-section now.
differences. I was going to say, because people can't say. I had 3 cesareans myself. And yeah, you did that time afterwards. Certainly, when everything's so fresh and new, that
Yeah.
you, as a woman as well, that you need that sort of support from your partner, or
Yeah.
because there's a real physical need as well, isn't there? Instead of, you know, whether it's just getting a cup of tea or getting a glass of water while you're feeding the baby, or yeah. So I get that from that side. So yeah, that can feel a lot of pressure. It's really nice to hear, but it's not something that you kind of, despite having 5 children, it's not something really that we've really discussed as a couple
Yeah.
either. Just to say, right, how are you taking care of yourself today in
Yeah.
amongst all of this, in amongst all of the chaos? It's something that I've heard mentioned is this 7 pillars of self-care in your routine. Is that something that you refer to, that model, yourself, or is
It's
that
it's
textbook?
not, but when
Mhm.
I've looked at it, it's so there is a lot that I do that fit into them 7 pillars. So spiritual, I consider myself quite a spiritual person. I would say that ties in with my meditation. I
Mhm.
I do pray, but I'm not a religious person, so I believe in a higher power, which is what I've
Yeah.
been taught for my own recovery.
Mhm.
My environmental, going to the woods. I I love being in the woods.
Yeah.
We
Mhm.
recently had a week in the Lake District at a place called Stonefreight where there was nothing but like fairy pools and woodland, and we were right next to a stream
Mhm.
camping.
Mhm.
And that for me, no phone signal in a week was the perfect reset that I needed, especially at the end of them 6 week summer holidays where it's such a
Yeah, it's
sort of
intense.
cluster of I'm hungry, I'm bored, I'm hungry, I'm bored. What can we
Yeah.
do today? And then
Mhm.
stressing about everything costs money in the summer holidays,
The
and
uniforms, you get to the
so
September.
changing your environment, I think, is massive. Just even if it's just a little walk in the woods, I always find I feel a lot better after being outside in nature. I always feel
Yeah.
much better on the emotional side. So I struggled with showing emotion or getting emotional pretty much all my life. And I think this very much where we're from in the northeast is men were told, you know, boys don't cry, sort of suck it up.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
you know, my granddad was a pit mine. I'd lost my dad when I was 8, and my granddad was my male role model and was very much of the, you know, you're the man of the house now,
Kind
sort
of
out.
just
And
get on with it. Yeah,
it,
internalize. Mhm.
at 8 year old,
Mhm.
that's quite a difficult thing to learn. So I've started over the last 2 years, started journaling, and I've found that helps me massively, especially to look at why it is maybe I can't handle certain situations the same way as other
Mhm.
people do. Like my partner's quite easy at showing emotion if there's a film on or something, and I can be very shut off, and to
Mhm.
explore that part of myself and start writing it down
Mhm.
is allowed me to get a better understanding of who I am and why I am the way I am. A lot of expectations of others that have ended up moulding this person that
Mhm.
isn't the true Scott. You know what I mean? I'm sort of
Mhm. Mhm.
being created by my surroundings, whereas now I want to be the best version of me that I can be, and I don't want my son growing up thinking that, you know, you can't cry or you can't show emotion or it's a sign of
Mhm.
weakness. So to get a
Yeah.
better understanding of myself is, in my eyes, is ultimately going to be the best way I can show my son the best version of me and help him to be the best version of himself in the future. So
Yeah.
the emotional stuff, it's been quite difficult having a look at
Yeah.
a lot of the things that I don't like about myself and
Mm.
thinking, why am I like that? Sort of be
Mhm.
difficult. So self-care is important when doing that as well. If I'm
Mhm.
doing a sort of a journal entry and it's a bit shadow work, I like shadow work where you look at the parts of you that you don't like and why don't I like that, or why don't I like certain things in other people. And
Mhm.
quite often it's because it's a reflection of myself that I see in them.
Mm.
And after that I need just a little bit of time to get myself together, you know, just take nice quiet. That's when I like to listen to a bit of guided meditation, and I'll take some time for myself, and then I can carry on with the rest of my day. But I would say, if you are doing anything like that, or anyone is thinking about doing any shadow work or looking at having a good honest look at themselves, make sure you set aside some time after that to really just let it go, because you don't want to be carrying that around with you all day, and you need to be in a good place before you look at the dark side of yourself, if you get what I mean.
That sounds really interesting. I think what we'll do is put some links in the bio afterwards, and just make sure that we have sort of link to the shadow working. It sounds really interesting. Have you actually felt a benefit from that then already, or is it something that you're just embarking upon? Or
Massively. So I'm part of a fellowship as well. So I've been in recovery for just over 4 years now, and I've done the 12 steps, and a lot of that is it's very similar to shadow work. It's looking at the parts of myself and taking some accountability. Whereas I didn't have any accountability in the past. I don't think I did. I blamed everything on the circumstances of, I lost my dad when I was young. I lost my mum when I was 18, and everything that I had done would always be blamed on, you would be the same if you had lost your parents. Whereas in reality, I've got a brother and sister who we've got a different father, but my dad was like a dad to them as well, and they've lost their parents. My sister's a very successful solicitor, and my brother's a policeman, so it's not necessarily the case that if you were in my shoes, you would go down the same path that I did. You know, I think I just didn't know how to deal with it, and then for a long time used as an excuse to not deal with my own trauma. And then when my son come along, it was time that I needed to. I can't carry that around with us and carry on the way that I was, and not expect him to grow up in the way that I want him to. You know, I want him to experience sort of a loving, kind father that's there and takes accountability for his own actions, instead of going, well, it's everybody else's fault.
And be that role model.
So it's been beneficial. Like I said, it has been difficult. It comes with difficulties, but it's definitely helped me, and also helped us to be a much better dad.
Oh, that's great. It's got we've already touched a little bit about this, you know, juggling family life and different priorities at different times. But is there any other advice that you'd like to give to the listeners, just to say how to still fit this in? Like, how to actually fit this in?
Yeah, it is difficult fitting time in for yourself when you've got everything going on. It sometimes can be a case of just getting up half an hour earlier and going to bed that little bit earlier. Like, you know, find that time. And with not having parents and not having regular care or any assistance with my son, apart from when my partner's down, but she lives away at the moment at uni. It can be very, very difficult, but for anyone that is struggling, you know, we're always, I think a lot of, especially dads, and well, seeing that single mothers as well, you will always sort of, if someone offers and says, I'd watch your son for half an hour, and you trust them, and it's like, say it's a neighbour, but we always sort of brush it off, and we're like, no, you know, and
No, I'm okay. I can manage.
that sort of, you've got that guilt of it. Take them up on the offer, you know, because at the end of, as long as it's a trusted person, you get a half an hour, you go for a run, go for a little walk, you get that time on your own, and you can sort yourself out. It ultimately benefits not only you, but everyone around you. So don't be afraid to take people up on the offers, and don't look at, like, because I used to think, like, if I accept some help off, like, my neighbour I've got a good relationship with, if I accept some help off my neighbour, they're going to think I'm struggling, or I can't do this job. And I was so panicked about everyone thinking that I couldn't be dad. But as it turns out, some people just genuinely want to help you, so accept the help where it's there, and make sure you're looking after yourself, because like I said, if you don't look after yourself, you really can't look after anybody else.
Yeah. Oh, Scott, that was amazing. That was really, really inspirational. I hope that there's lots of people out there listening can resonate with it and just think, right, I'm going to make this time. It's not selfish. I think that's the key message for me from our chat is it isn't
Yeah.
selfish. It's actually essential. And I'm really enjoying that chat. I'm going to put some like recommended reading resources on. Is there anything you want to kind of verbally update on, or should we just put in the links?
I would,
Anything in particular?
for my own thing, would just be literally have a little look into person-centered counselling, anything to do with that shadow work, Carl Jung, Carl Rogers, reflective journaling. I mean, because of like how easy everything is now with Google at our fingertips, there's so many resources out there, which obviously some of them are not so good as well. But you know, there's something out there that works for everyone. And what I would always say is find what works for you and stick with that, you know. But don't be afraid to try new things. Like keep an open mind and find what fits your lifestyle or what works for you, and put that into your own life.
Yeah. Excellent. Thank you so much. And I'll
Lovely.
speak to you
Thank you very
soon.
much.
All right. Thanks, Scott. Bye.
Brilliant. Bye.
Thank you for listening to It's All Mental, a podcast from Everyturn Mental Health. If you enjoyed this episode, remember to follow, rate and share. See you next time.